Alright, what's good, everyone? I'm here to do a review today of a movie called Shadow in the Cloud. This was a wild movie to go in blind to. I just saw it on something somewhere one time, put it on my watch list, thought it looked interesting, completely forgot about it probably like a year or more later. Saw it on Netflix the other night, and I'm like, sure, I'll watch this now, having just completely no idea what it was. And I'll tell you what it is. For the first half, it is a fairly solid World War II thriller with some slight horror elements in there. You're not really sure if it's like going to go full horror mode or if it is just, playing with the idea of it. And then you get halfway through this movie, and it just goes completely bonkers, for better or worse. Like, you gotta be either completely down with what they're doing in the second half of this movie, or you're just gonna hate it. Like, it is a very interesting experience to watch this movie. It was certainly entertaining. There was a point in it where I'm like, okay, this is terrible. And then after a few seconds, I'm like, I kind of like this terrible though. It's just such a dramatic shift though, but we'll get more into that a little bit later. So, what's the actual plot of this movie? Basically, we get a pilot played by Chloe Moretz who does a pretty good job in this, easily the best actor in this, but also the one with by far the most screen times. And she gets on board this plane claiming she has direct orders from the top that she has to, go on this plane ride. I don't even know where they were going, but go with this crew who had no idea that this was coming and are like really upset about it. And she comes on board with this bag that she says is classified. None of them can know what's in it. And she's like delivering it wherever they're going to.
I'm supposed to guard this.
I'll guard it for you.
Contents are confidential.
And seeing as this new order classified bag everything came out of nowhere, and they have no idea who this woman is, they are super skeptical of her, don't trust her at all. And that's sort of where this thriller element comes in, where she is basically stuffed in the bottom of this plane in this gunner seat. For the entire first half of this movie, you're just sitting in this one cramped little room with her, and everyone's talking over comms, and there's all this, I should say, some of this tight dialogue about like who is she, where she came from, and like all this intrigue that they build up, and it has some pretty solid thrills in there. Halfway through, you get like a really interesting reveal that changes everything, and for the first half of the movie, like I said, it's all in this one small little area on the plane, and you never really see the rest of the plane, and it's sort of visualized on rare occasion as this like shadowy abstract zone, and I really like the way they visualized it. And this movie does a lot of really cool stuff with the lighting. It just has a really pretty look to it a lot of times. Other times, there are some really bad green screens. There's some rough looking like explosions. There are other places though, I will say, where they really knew where they needed to put the budget. Where there's certain things in this movie, I won't spoil what, but they look basically perfect, like really surprisingly well done for the low budget this movie had. Now, unfortunately, the worst part of this movie is the characters, which brings it down just so much, and just the messaging of it all is more what I mean here. And it just hits you over the head with its like feminist messaging, where all of the men are the most egregious misogynists ever that are just constantly disrespecting her at all times. And it's just so obnoxious, some of the dialogue in like the first 20 minutes. After that, it kind of lets up, but it's still there.
Hey, is that an actual girl on board? Is that a broad on Yeah, buddy, it's a dame.
And it's just so frustrating. And a lot of the times you will, or I've seen this in sort of those other World War II era things with female leads, where it's just like they always have to have it there. And there's some historical accuracy there, obviously, but I feel like not every single man ever in the 40s hated women like they were Nazis. Like, I don't get it. Like, why they have to do that in these sorts of movies. And then you get to the back half of this movie where she's just like a total girl boss and she's doing everything better than the man. You don't need to have a woman be completely unreasonably better at everything and always putting down men and having men just be the worst to prove that women in 1940s were just like normal people, and that women can be strong in normal ways, not weird like this movie does. But I will say the sort of girl boss element wasn't as obnoxious in this movie, where in the second half everything is just so off the rails crazy that it still kind of works. It feels like it fits, and there's some parts that are actually pretty cool. Now, to elaborate more on what's going on in the second half of the movie that I've hyped up so much, it starts like following Fast and Furious logic after being a fairly grounded war thriller for the first half, and it sort of becomes an action movie, and it sounds like a full-on horror movie, and you just have to suspend all of the disbelief. And if you can do that, it's a lot of fun. It's gonna put a cap on the score that you'll give the movie, how much enjoyment you get out of it, based on like what you go in expecting, what you want out of it. If you want a full-on war movie, thriller movie, you're only going to get half of that. If you want sort of dumb, fun, action horror movie, you will also get that, but only in the second half. Now, I want to keep the horror element a secret, but if I haven't sold you on it yet, I do think it's better to go in blind, but I will say now, spoiler warning, what the horror aspect is of this movie. It is a monster movie. There are gremlins in it. They're kind of more like vampires. It's really weird, but they call them gremlins. The special effects on them are surprisingly good. Some good action scenes with them. It gets goofy, it gets silly, but it's a lot of fun. And if gremlins on an airplane in World War II sounds cool to you, then I'd still say this is worth checking out, even though it has a huge tone problem. So, in summary, you get a solid World War II war movie thriller out of this. You get a action horror movie out of this, but you get some really, really grating dialogue, some bad green screens and effects, some good effects. If it does sound interesting to you, I do still recommend checking it out. Just maybe watch it once on Netflix. It's only like 86 minutes long. So I really wanted to give this a 7 out of 10 because it was so genuinely good in the first half, so much dumb fun in the second half, but it just doesn't mix together, and it hits you over the head with that messaging so bad. I'm going to knock it down to a 6. It's just okay. I just really think it could have been better if it took itself more seriously. Anyway, that's all I got for Shadow in the Cloud. Thanks for watching.